right, it is 6:30 and 40 seconds, so let's, or 5:30, yes, even better, and 45 seconds. Let's call the meeting to order. First order of business is we have new commissioners tonight. It is tradition that we kind of just go down the line and introduce ourselves. So we will start down at that end. Marcelo, right?
Yes.
Is one of our new commissioners. Go ahead and give us a little bit, just what interested you in serving and.
Yeah. My name is Marcelo Arwani. I'm an architect, work with Emergent Architecture in Cedar Rapids. I've been living in Iowa City since 2016. I am a landlord, and I've learned a lot about the needs for housing and the provisions for housing and what it takes to build housing also. So then I'm also good friends with Josh Moe. And in conversations with him, I became interested in trying to help and participate in this commission.
My name is Amos Kiche. I've lived in Iowa City for slightly over 30 years. I got interested into the Housing Commission after participating in Iowa City Truth and Reconciliation Commission, for which I learned that there were some housing issues that were affecting the community that I wanted to talk about, and we didn't have enough time to work on that in the commission. So I felt like maybe I would use my experience there and help here a little bit. Usually I'm interested in issues of social justice, economic development, and also interested in research onto issues that are usually neglected in regular research issues. So that's why I'm here.
I'm Tom Rockland. I retired from the university in 2017. I've lived in Iowa City for 39 years, and I became interested in issues of housing and community development through two activities. One is my service on the board of United Way, and the other is my wife and I did a pro bono strategic planning project for the Johnson County Affordable Housing Coalition, and learned quite a bit about the needs in our community. So glad to be able to serve.
I'm Kyle Vogel. I own Keystone Property Management in Iowa City. I've been a resident of Iowa City for off and on for about 26 years, originally from Kansas City, but I think this is, I don't know, year 4 or 5 for me. I originally joined HCDC more with the idea of being able to have input in housing inspection and projects and plans and that stuff, and kind of found how much larger the scope of what we do here is, and how really how important and how it affects housing across pretty much all of the different aspects of Iowa City. So it's been really great to kind of take this different task or different look at how both what the city does and how my business competes and how nonprofits work within the city. So and I've been chair for a year, 2 years, something like that. So
I'm Mary Ann Dennis, and I'm retired. I worked for many years in the development of affordable housing, development and management of affordable housing. I've lived in Iowa City for a really long time.
Hi, I'm Stacy Kaiser. I've worked in the development and management of affordable housing for just about 15 years now. So everything from the operations to the property management, inspections, writing grants, compliance, LIHTC, home HUD, all of those fun things. I've only lived in Iowa City just a little over a year. So really wanting to get involved, and I'm very passionate about affordable housing, and know a few people here in Iowa City, and just Iowa City does so many amazing things, so I'm grateful to be a part of the commission.
well, welcome Marcella, welcome Stacy. If you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to staff. Reach out to any of us individually if you have questions, especially as we start ramping up for award season, as it were. But you guys are, luckily this meeting is kind of a nice little ease you in meeting. You're not getting dropped in handed a giant spreadsheet and said,
Right.
here's 7,000 pages to read. That will come, but it'll be good. So, next order of business, minutes. Everybody had a chance to look through the packet. Were there any amendments to offer, adjustments, changes? If not, I would accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. It is time for public comments of items not on the agenda, which I don't see any public here. So I will move on. And is Ellen coming?
She's right there.
Oh, she's right over there. I wasn't even paying attention. So the next item on the agenda is Ellen McCabe from the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County is here to tell us all about what they do.
Okay,
So, welcome.
thank you. It is a pleasure to be here. The trust fund does some of the similar work of HCDC. So we're linked, but we're on sort of separate paths, and I hope I'll explain that this evening. So it is a pleasure to be here and tell you about the Housing Trust Fund. The mission of the organization is to promote and support housing that is affordable. Our vision as an entity is that everyone should have access to safe, decent, and affordable housing. Everyone. We have two main programs. The one you hear more about, if you will, is the revolving loan fund, and I'll probably focus on that most this evening, but we also have an owner-occupied rehabilitation program whereby we can help about 15 homeowners each year through two different programs. One is the Federal Home Loan Bank program, where we apply for funding from the Federal Home Loan Bank, and then we're able to use their funding along with our matching funds to help provide forgivable loans to people to do rehabilitation on their homes. In the past, those homes had to be outside of the city of Iowa City, and now they don't have to be outside of the city of Iowa City. We also grant money to Iowa Valley Habitat for Humanity for their Helping Hands program, if they're serving households within Johnson County. And so in that program, the individuals have to have extremely low incomes, and it's usually for ramps, handicap accessible ramps, bathroom remodels, for safety, floors, windows, doors, things like that. So just a brief overview of the organization. The organization was founded by someone in this room, was part of that founding more than 21 years ago. So that would be Mary Ann from your group. I'm here today. I'll tell you about, we have a board of directors with 19 people who bring a vast amount of expertise to the organization. We have bankers, lenders, people, local government representatives, developers, and actual service providers on the board of directors. I, as the main staff person, appreciate the amount of support and passion that they bring to the organization and expertise. As the staff person, I have 35 plus years of experience in not-for-profit leadership roles with 7 local organizations. I have graduate degrees in business and counseling. I was a low-income first-time home buyer, so when people talk about those people, I just remind them that here I am, one of those people. I was the director of the Crisis Center, which is now Community, and as a human service provider, I didn't make a lot of money, and so I've qualified for a low-income first-time home buyer grant. I have a passion for the mission. I have managed housing for a variety of populations here in the community, shelters for domestic violence victims, shelters for youth. And I have a staff person who can work up to 0.25, and he mostly works in the information category, working on our application, our database of past projects and so forth. So that's the staff, and we believe in service. That's the only, the only thing we do is affordable housing, and it is my job to help make that happen from a service standpoint. We get a variety of funding sources. My job is to get the money, earn the money. And so our largest funding source is Johnson County. Our second largest funding source is the city of Iowa City. And then the original funding body that Mary Ann and others paid attention to in the early 2000s was when the state of Iowa came up with the State Housing Trust Fund. There are 27 state housing trust funds in the state of Iowa, and back at the beginning, they said you need to form a state housing trust fund in order to get this money, and some very wise people got on the stick. I still receive mail to this day addressed to Mary Ann from the state. She did serve on the board of directors also. So I also apply for grants from local financial institutions and the federal government lately, and so forth. So that's our next largest funding source. The Federal Home Loan Bank falls under that category, which is about $200,000 a year when we receive an award. We get loan payments, and we take the principal of every loan payment and put it back into the revolving loan fund. And to me, this is the thing of beauty. And I honor the people who created these bones 21 plus years ago. The city of Coralville and the city of North Liberty contribute, and then we also accept donations. The city of Iowa City has an affordable housing plan. I'll just go over the highlights. $650,000 of the $1,050,000 goes to the trust fund. $52,000 of that money is available for our expenses, including if we want to do, expenses. It takes money to keep any organization going. We've had increases lately in our auditing, insurance, like many other organizations, so we're grateful for the support. So that leaves $598,000 for housing, and we are to create and preserve housing that is affordable to people with incomes below 80% of the area median income. And it needs to be within the city and throughout the city. Now, not in the contract or extra expectations of the trust fund. These are the contractual obligations. They expect us to get appropriate and long-term affordability periods. They expect us to serve the people with the lowest incomes whenever possible. We're meeting those expectations. So what makes the Housing Trust Fund somewhat unique is that we have quarterly funding rounds. So, and even having quarterly funding rounds, for example, the Polk County Housing Trust Fund has one rental housing round per year. So if you don't have a project during that time period, or if a project comes up at a later time period, you're kind of SOL. But in our situation, we want to be as flexible as possible, so we have these rounds. And I always say, if the seasons are changing, the trust fund is making funding available. The money is available to create units, preserve units. The money is available for rent and deposit and shelter through an applicant. We don't have the means to provide direct care to people. But if an organization applies, such as Inside Out did for several years, apply for rent and deposit money for people coming out of incarceration, for example. This money has also been used for pilot projects, demonstration projects. It's been a variety of pretty cool things happen over the years. We have a website, and I'm including the key resources here for applicants. On the website, there's the information about the current round. So this Friday, we will announce the winter round. And then there's a programs tab and an information tab. And then the information about income levels is also on our website. I run a course called Housing Trust Fund 101 to help potential applicants understand the program. And I also offer a course called Income Documentation 102 to help applicants and/or recipients complete their paperwork. It's not easy, but it's doable, and I'm a teacher at heart, so I help on people understand where they can hire that out if they don't so choose. So when people apply, there are different potential outcomes. They could get a grant. This is usually for efforts that don't have a piece of property attached to it that we can secure with a mortgage. And for those who have incomes below 30% AMI. So when Habitat for Humanity applies for Helping Hand funds, we can't put mortgages on all the households they're going to help. So it's in the form of a grant. And the people who receive that funding have to have incomes at the very lowest level. Then we have forgivable loans. These are for projects serving households with the lowest incomes. And the project does not have income to support repayment of a loan. We offer zero-interest loans primarily to small not-for-profits, and we offer low-interest loans, generally 1% to 4%, to for-profit organizations based on the financial picture that is presented. And then we offer what I call the combo platters. We can have a forgivable loan, half repayable loan, some forgiven, some paid back situation. We've done that recently with Domestic Violence Intervention Shelter. They actually got a grant, a forgivable loan, and then a repayable loan. Shelter House has done the same thing for 501 in Cross Park Place, a grant, a forgivable loan, and then a repayable loan. Kind of, we'll be first dollar and we'll be last dollar. And we don't care which dollar we are, but we're happy to fill in for that. So there's a process. We go through it. It's a cycle. And like this Wednesday, the Operations Committee will suggest an amount, will come up with an amount to be offered in the upcoming round. I told Brianna here that I believe it will be at least $3.5 million this time. The Board of Directors will receive that recommendation and decide on Friday what's available. And so then I announce the amount of funding through an email to anyone who has expressed interest in affordable housing over the years. Facebook, I hold meetings, I send out a press release, and then I offer Funding 101. I put several on the calendar and make those available, and I also welcome people to have their own individual sessions if the times I've offered don't fit their needs. I consult with potential applicants. I review drafts of applications before they're finalized. Again, this is the customer service part of my soul. We have a deadline. It's very strict. And then I tell people they're competing against the guidelines first, and then they're competing against the other applications within the round. The distribution committee reviews, this is again, bankers, developers, local elected officials and staff, city staff. They review the applications and make recommendations to the full board, and then the board determines the awards. All of this takes place within 1 month. And then the day of the board meeting, I contact the applicants and tell them the outcome and provide feedback. Characteristics that can influence outcomes of funding rounds, serving households with incomes, extremely low incomes. If you have 2 applications and they're equal, the one that's serving the lower income is going to prevail. Ones that benefit people who have another challenge on top of their income challenge, such as having a disability, or lately we've had coming out of substance abuse treatment, things like that. New partners always get a good look. Viable projects and considering old partners or long-term partners, have they had past successes? Do the numbers that they're providing make sense? Are the rents affordable or mortgage payments affordable? The committee looks at how much is being leveraged by the projects. This is going down over the years. There's fewer sources outside of the trust fund for applicants to tap. But we do like to extend the impact of the funding that we've been entrusted with as much as possible. Appropriate periods of affordability. When I work with potential applicants, I say there better be a 10 in front of what you're applying for. 10 years in order for the exchange of the low interest or zero interest loan. We do have loans that are 40 years at this point. And then innovation is rewarded. Sometimes, perhaps it's too innovative. We funded the 3D printed project that did not materialize, literally. The Muscatine. But the project we were funding was here in Iowa City. So. Possible outcomes for applicants not eligible for funding, meaning that they asked for something that's outside of the guidelines. The income level is too high, over 80%. Or they asked for a forgivable loan for serving people at too high of an income, things like that. Eligible for funding, apply again. We had a round this summer where we had $3.2 million available, and we received applications for $8.8 million. So now I had to do a lot of phone calls that day that said, apply again. Your application was fine. The committee just had very difficult decisions to make. People may be told that they're funded, but the terms that they're offered may differ from what was proposed. Then they receive an award letter that summarizes the terms, and then a lot of times we'll put contingencies on it. How soon do they have to draw the money? We had a group called the Iowa City Sober Living a few years ago who didn't have their 501c3 yet, but they were planning on it. So we said, when you get your 501c3, then you can have the money. With Inside Out said they would raise $75,000. Go ahead, show me when you have, so we put contingencies on the funding. This is the projects that we paid out. That's a very important phrase for us because sometimes we award projects that don't come to fruition. So paid out means it really, really, really happened. So we paid out $1.4 million last year, which helped 94 households. Most of which were located in Iowa City. These were the income levels served with those dollars. 84% of the households were at the lowest income level. So before, when I said we get pressure to serve the lowest income, I think we're doing that here. But we do like to span all income levels when we can. So we had some 60%, some 70%, and all the way up to the top. Those 7 households in the 80%, below 80%, that's home ownership. People becoming homeowners, primarily through Habitat for Humanity. These are the different kinds of housing that were funded with that $1.4 million. So it runs the whole gamut from shelter through supported rental. That's a category I've sort of made up. It means there's staff on site for a reason. People with disabilities, people with intense needs, things like that. New rental housing, home ownership. I can't read what I have here. Owner-occupied rehab and advocacy. We have made, since the very beginning, contributions to the Affordable Housing Coalition for them to do advocacy. In terms of leverage with those dollars, that $1.4 million leveraged another $3.4 million for a total investment of affordable housing related to the trust fund of $4.8 million. What happened last year was we awarded, so that's different than paid out, we awarded 16 projects. This is twice the all-time record. And I was like, I knew I was busy, but this is really busy. 2 of those projects are grayed out because they did not come to fruition. There's one for Reach for Your Potential. They withdrew their application. They went a different direction with the property that they were buying. And then the Iowa Valley Habitat for Humanity withdrew their award. They did not want to, they didn't know that they would be able to get 5 projects going in the time frame that was needed. So the net awarded last year was 2.5 million, with 9 forgivable and 5 repayable and 1 grant, with 109 households helped. And you can see there that 93 households had incomes below 30% AMI. With a 5-year look back on this time frame here, the last 5 years, including FY25, we've impacted 492 doors, and we've paid out $7.4 million, and an average of 98 per year and 1.4. So we were right on the money last year for the average, but it does range because sometimes we award things and it doesn't happen for 2 years. The larger the project, the longer it takes for them to draw. So there's nothing normal, typical about it. Another look back, but this is just slightly different years, not including last year. The total paid out was 6.7 million, but the total impact was $70 million with 539 households. Again, with the average of 1.3 per million and an average of 108 households. We did have there for a while the COVID impact. I kept calling it the COVID impact because providers were just trying to survive and couldn't think about how do I add to this situation. They were concerned about staffing, they were concerned about, and there were supply chain issues and all sorts of impacts. So it's continuing with being very, very busy. This first 4 months of the year, we've paid out $1.9 million to these entities. So when I talk about challenges in the housing landscape, the need is overwhelming. Rod Sullivan, who serves on the Johnson County Board of Supervisors, has started quoting me saying, we can't solve this. We can't solve it, but we can keep making an impact. The housing as an industry is stagnant at best. Everything costs more. The land, the materials, the labor, the interest, the insurance, and the overall uncertainty about the economy. The developers, I talk to private developers and I say, hey, Mr. Pratt, you're developing 380 units out in North Liberty. How about you include some affordable units? Not him, but other developers would say, I don't need to. The market is strong enough that they don't need to include affordable housing. Developers don't see the financial incentives as being enough to get them into the business of affordable housing, private developers. It takes work to do this, to manage it, to maintain it. Not-for-profit developers have been wary due to the factors above, as well as being in a recovery phase from COVID, as well as the uncertainty of what's going on at the federal level. This became increasingly apparent last week when the federal government indicated that they may not be funding homeless services in the near future. So some of the responses of the trust fund to these challenges, we've put more funding per unit of housing for preservation and new housing. So it used to be $50,000 was the maximum you could get for any 1 unit of housing. We've increased that based all across the board. And then the second bullet, we've also indexed it to the size of the housing being built. So if you're building a 3-bedroom now, you're eligible for $150,000. As of last year, a year ago, it was $50,000. So this is one of the ways in which we're trying to spur interest in and recognizing the need. And then we're connecting with developers who've had success in Iowa, including those who are willing to apply for the 4% tax credit projects. The 9% tax credit projects with the state of Iowa are competitive and always have been. The 4% tax credit program was not competitive and was available all year. Now, my understanding is it's being funneled into specific rounds, dates, but we may see more for 4% projects in the future. The Housing Trust Fund is connected to a variety of groups. I go to a lot of meetings. I make sure that everyone present who is interested in housing knows about the Housing Trust Fund and knows that funding is available, and no further away than a phone call or an email. I am a landlord. I belong to the Greater Iowa City Apartment Association. I use my landlord status to meet people in that fashion. I'm part of the Johnson County Livable Communities, which focuses on housing for the aged, the elderly, if you will, people over 50, I don't know what near. Greater Iowa City, Better Together, the local homeless coordinating board, which ironically I was voluntold to found more than 30 years ago. So now I'm back there. I would be very happy to entertain questions now, or you could contact me with questions at any time.
So, Ellen, you mentioned the other state housing trust funds. You said there were, what,
27 total.
27? Do you know how many of those currently have a revolving loan program?
Very few.
Right.
Most of the trust funds that I'm aware of, except for outside of Polk and maybe Scott and Muscatine, do only owner-occupied rehabilitation.
So essentially, it's my understanding, they get a grant from the State Housing Trust Fund, and then they do housing rehab, and then they get another grant. So there's no.
Correct.
They don't have
And
any
usually
kind
the
of
staff
coming
person
in.
is part of another group, is
Right.
part of the local government,
COG, yeah.
would be a city or a county, or an COG employee.
Can I ask, oops, sorry, go ahead, Amos.
Did I hear you, if I'm correct, that the for-profit organizations can also apply for loans?
Yes. For-profit organizations can apply for below-market rate loans. Yes,
And usually, how many are there compared to the other applicants?
very few.
Usually very few.
Right.
What do you think usually brings them to your organization instead of going to the commercial banking institutions?
The lower interest.
Lower interest.
And I try to sell, don't you want to do the right thing? But
And what if you have a situation where, because of low interest, which could be serving and expanding and using resources for the other courses, you limit? Like, I'm not sure if you have a ceiling to which you can give, because there could be a range of so many for-profit organizations taking advantage of what could be channeled to other areas that could be useful for those courses that are probably worthy. Yeah.
we don't have for-profit developers knocking down the door. They don't need to. They want to stay charging full rent. They don't want our assistance to lower the rent.
So which would mean that you put restrictions on the loans you give to them or not?
Oh, yeah, everything is restricted. The amount of rent that they can have people pay is restricted by the income level of the person. And then we hold them to that. With the mortgage, we put a mortgage on the property, and they have to abide by what we're saying for the period of time that we've agreed to. And we have a loan agreement and a promissory note and a mortgage.
Another question.
Yeah.
Sorry. You talked about a committee, that looks like our commission here making a lot of decisions on
Uh-huh.
the location of the grants. How is that committee composed, elected, or changed, or?
Right. So they're members of the board of directors of the trust fund, and the trust fund has committees. And so the individuals, there hasn't been much change, so I don't know how they got on, but they're bankers, developers, city staff from the city of Iowa City, the city of Coralville, the city of North Liberty. They're people who choose to do the hard work, looking at all the applications, making the hard decisions. And what they're doing is just recommending to the full board, justifying their decisions, their recommendations.
Ellen, thanks, that was super helpful. What are some of the most exciting pilot projects you've seen?
Maybe they happened before my time.
Okay.
So the Housing First for Shelter House,
Yeah.
Cross Park Place, there was money put up by the trust fund to research that. And then it began from there. Then there was money for the land, and then there was money for this and that. I kind of think in my era, we were giving rent and deposit money to Inside Out, and, 6 or 8 people a year kind of thing, but that sucks up 20 grand like that. So I said to the Inside Out, how about you buy a house? And they did. So, yeah, I can't, the demonstration projects or the research, we haven't had a lot of.
Similar question, but as you look around the landscape, what do you wish someone would try here? You seen anything elsewhere that,
I personally wouldn't be opposed to tiny homes that were fully furnished. There's places like in Madison where they're trying tiny homes without bathrooms.
oh, yeah,
You have to leave your home to go outside, to go to the gas station bathroom.
yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah,
So that would be one.
That's not a home.
yeah.
Yeah,
right.
that's, to me, that's just cruel.
Yeah,
It gets to be, I'm sorry, I've been to Madison a lot.
Right.
It gets to be below 0 degrees. Yeah. I think
So
that's.
there's I think, you probably don't want to get into this, but I think in Johnson County, sometimes, there's not a lot of land available, and it's expensive. And there's a certain amount of politics, and I think they're involved for where we are situated in the state of Iowa.
I will tell you that it's not Iowa City, but the superintendent of schools in Lone Tree really got me one day when he said, I hired 12 teachers this year, new teachers, and I can't have any of them live here. There's nothing. That gets me.
Anybody else have any? I have a couple. So when we talk about the 598 that comes from the city, that is budgeted just direct from the city. That's not part of any of our award.
It doesn't come through this
discussion, right?
commission, it's through the Affordable Housing Fund,
Okay,
the $1 million annual.
right.
1,050,000.
Yes, excuse me.
And so, but I'm assuming of that 598 that they have to then report back to the city. Does that go through you as far as reports back of how that 598 is spent?
Yeah, it comes
That goes
back to
through
our
your
office.
office,
Ellen
okay.
does a nice annual report of what city's money went to what project.
Can I ask why that's not part of the HCDC chain?
Meaning like just viewing
As far
the
as what that,
report,
yeah, I
or-
mean, as far as making those decisions on what that funding, like who gets those portions of the affordable housing?
The Affordable Housing Fund itself, or
Yeah.
just the portion that goes to the Housing Trust Fund?
Well, I mean, I guess where all of that money goes. I mean, why is that not coming through here as recommendations?
It's set directly by city council, so there's a ratio of how the funding is distributed every year. So a portion of it goes to Housing Trust Fund, a portion of it is also set aside for LIHTC projects that's held for 2 years, and then if we don't get a LIHTC project,
So
that
it's a
would,
set amount that doesn't change year to year what those percentages are?
The percentages are the same. I think the Affordable Housing Fund, it used to be $1 million and it has increased, but it's set by a ratio. Like, another percentage of it goes to an opportunity fund or an emergency fund. That's all set by city
So
council.
that's set by ordinance at some point. There
It's
was,
through a resolution. If they wanted input from HCDC, they would certainly ask for it, but
And it used to be that the trust fund would have to come
Oh, really?
here, yeah.
And ask
But
for it.
also remember that the, and how did it work? That there was another resolution about affordable rental, new construction of affordable rental. That, we don't get those anymore, right? Those go to the trust fund.
yeah, we did, through our last 5-year planning cycle, we did make
Correct.
some changes to how we've talked about with our federal funds. It's very hard to do some of these projects. So this relationship with Ellen and the Housing Trust Fund is really important because the flexibility is just so much greater than what we can do with CDBG or home. So when we have those big construction projects that we're like, you're gonna jump through all these hurdles, all of this is gonna add costs for you, we can simply, direct those to the Housing Trust Fund and they can have a much, I don't want to say inexpensive, but you're not adding the cost of all those different requirements that come with federal funding. So this is a super important relationship for us. And then also, I just wanted to mention that I think Ellen likes to say the funding layers in some of these projects are like a lasagna. Like a lot of these things are being layered together. So the project she mentioned earlier, Inside Out Reentry, CDBG funds or home funds went into that project as well. So people are able to kind of tap into both of these things to make things happen.
no, that's fine. I was just curious how that decision, why, I mean, at some point, yeah, it sometimes seems weird, the stuff that comes in front of us and then what doesn't. That's all. So it was purely a curiosity question of like, yeah, so,
You want more work?
well, not more work per se, but it just feels like you would think that you'd have the same team working on all the problems than splitting up the teams with different problems. But that was just curious because I knew this existed but didn't understand why it existed. Curious question on, you had mentioned during discussion about like you, for the forgivable loans, doing loans of things that like have mortgages and being able to write those. I mean, there's a lot of the forgivable loans. Why do forgivable loans versus just doing grants? I mean, if you're wiping, if you're giving that money and not requiring repayment, and my question is especially like to Shelter House where, for an organization that, I mean, does have property and does have equity and does have the ability that, I'm just curious why forgivable loans versus grants?
A grant, the way I describe it is a grant, here's your money. A forgivable loan is, we're in this for however long we've decided. And the paperwork says, if you don't do this, back to what Amos was saying, if you don't rent to people at the proper income levels, if you raise the rent above what's affordable for people, we're taking the money, you're gonna pay us.
You can still do that with grants, can you as well? Can't you make
the
grants?
money's
You don't have
gone.
a mortgage
Requirements?
securing
Grant
it.
doesn't have to be
Got it.
back.
Grant, no, the grant's gone.
So when you say they can go up to 40, I mean, for something like Shelter House or something, like, what are those usual repayment? I mean, are we talking, I mean, for them, is it 5, 10 years? I mean,
40
all of them are 40.
for Shelter House and DVIP currently.
Okay.
But DVIP's paying $500, $525 a month on that new ginormous shelter.
So they have a portion of actual loans and then a portion of not, of
Correct.
forgivable
They
as
got a
well.
grant, a forgivable loan, and then a loan.
Yeah, okay.
And is the trust fund the only source of financing? No.
No,
Oh,
we
no.
know that
No.
because we see it.
Right, yeah.
The bigger the project, I heard the stat that's 8 to 15 different sources in a large project, and I'm sure Stacy could.
And for our new members who haven't gone through the process, you will see that as part of our application processes. There will be a question of like, when they're coming to us for money, where else are they getting funding?
Right.
You will often see the trust fund
Right.
as one of those other sources as well. Yeah, especially for some of those large ones. Yeah, like I said,
Well, I think,
the loan, forgivable loan stuff is interesting to me, so.
to me anyway, the trust fund, the flexibility of the financing is just key, because so many of the other sources, when people are trying to develop housing or purchase or repurpose housing, the rules are the rules. And you either fit into those rules or you don't have a project. with this, you know, it's like, tell us what you're thinking about, tell us what you have, and we'll help, you know, fill in, if you will.
People are shocked when they ask me, well, when can I get the money? I'm like, if you can get the money the day after we award it to you.
Yeah.
Like we do pride ourselves on that flexibility. It's
And
not,
4 times a year is unheard of.
right.
Yeah, that's.
This is work. Right? That's why I get the big bucks.
What is, I mean, I couldn't figure it out from I was trying to look at the reports online, like, what is the cash balance, the equity balance of how much is in that fund right now?
Including all the mortgages and everything?
Yeah,
It's north of 10 million.
okay. And what was it when you started, what, $25, $30?
Mary Ann went around to the banks and said, how much,
Yeah,
give
that's
me
true,
your
nothing
money.
when it started.
A lot of grassroots.
That was a long time ago.
Anybody have any other questions?
I have a question, a couple of them. Oh, you had a table in which, I can't remember which page, in which you had an investment of about 4 million, but the impact either in the economy went up to 70. How did you, looks like an economic impact, or how did you get to that?
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
You're the
So-
one in the green. Yeah.
The projects, the trust fund in the project, we paid out 6.7 million, but the housing also costs 63 million more than that. So the total impact was 70 million.
The project's got another $63 million to support what they were trying to do from various places.
Other sources? Oh,
Yeah.
from other sources.
Other sources,
So initially awarding that generated other.
right.
I get you, thank you.
And don't a lot of the big projects have hard debt from like a real lender?
Yeah.
Correct. So they're first.
A lot of the projects have
Yeah.
multiple,
Right.
Hills Bank and First Interstate and.
Right. And then
Yeah.
it goes down and down and down. Yeah.
We take the last position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also really
So
key.
you were the first to give, or you?
First or the last, doesn't
Recommend
matter.
no hard.
I
Doesn't
was
matter.
thinking if
Oh, I know.
they're leveraging your initial investment, that is really, really great.
Yeah.
Either way, first or last or both.
Another question, you talked much about outreach, and I could see your networks in the network chapter, picture that you gave us. I was wondering if you do connect with the local social associations, could be migrant groups,
Yeah, so,
how you could network with them, and if you have participated in anything that they have either asked for or.
oh yeah. We just gave a forgivable loan to the Immigrant Welcome Network for $275,000 to support 6 households for the next 30 years. Transitional housing. I meet with the, Escucha Mi Voz Catholic Worker House people. I've talked to them about housing opportunities. I See Compassion I've talked to. I've talked to anybody who wants to develop housing.
I got one more thing.
Yep.
Thank you
My
for
pleasure.
coming here and presenting, and it's admirable, everything that you do. Before we let you go, I don't know if anybody has a question, but how can we help you?
How can you help? You can tell people about the trust fund. We don't need to be on everybody's top of mind, but if you know someone who's interested in housing, if you know someone who could develop housing or could renovate housing and then in turn rent that to people with low incomes in partnership with the trust fund. If you know elected officials and you want to say, there's really cool things happening, thank you for your support of the trust fund.
We can do that.
I know Scott County only holds 2 funding rounds, so 4 is definitely unheard of.
Right. The thing I didn't talk about today was the local option sales tax, and in case you didn't know, the Iowa City champion for the local option sales tax is sitting up there with you, and that would be Tom. And Tom is going to be responsible for millions of dollars coming into housing
Well,
for years.
you're far too generous. That
You
was
were
it.
the
That was
champ-
Nancy and Mackenzie.
Which did I lie about? You were the Iowa City champion.
That was true. The part about me being responsible was the. But I'll just comment, 85% of our community jumped on that. That is a great statement about Iowa City's values. Yeah.
So I have a
Thank you,
question.
Ellen. It's great to see you.
Likewise, thank you.
Amos, you got one more?
Yes, I have one.
Okay.
Also questions, maybe not. You talked of challenges, and one of them is having the developers buy into what we are doing in here, and you have a board. How are they approaching issues of incentives and other things that they can do
Right.
to make more developers?
Right.
Or create. You know, sometimes we can't have the same developer. They get old, they get tired, and the same thing all the day. Is there other things that we can do instead of not allowing the, also creating the developers? Because that is also a good thing. Research into how to create housing development
Right.
through developers, new developments. I know you do some work with the school, high school training, and with the kids. You fund the houses they build for
Yeah.
the community.
The student builds, yeah.
So I was wondering, because that's an area, see, there's a gap that would work on. And I don't know what your board is doing about that issue.
Well, we doubled or tripled the amount of money that people can get per project just in the last year. So that's important, to try to draw people into it. We work with the Greater Iowa City Inc., and we have worked in the past. Mary Ann served on a panel sponsored by that group as a panel of developers. We called it How to Pencil Out a Project, if you remember that, Mary Ann. So, yeah, we're trying.
And among the group that's already there, the developers, the market is so good for them, you said, that they don't care. Or not that they don't care, they might not really get it. Would there be a subsidy or something done to let them buy into what we are doing?
That's what we're doing. We're subsidizing the rent with our offering to say, will you lower the rent on these units for this amount of time?
Yeah, I mean, for building new units. Is there anything to make them so that they have more of it, building, apart from the rent that
Right.
you have restrictions on? Is there anything that could be done to them to make them say that, okay, either it is profitable, it's just okay, whether I get money from the housing trust fund or from the other places? Yeah. I was just thinking of a situation where we would have more of them, developers,
Right.
working with you to create, given land or cost and other things, to create more housing, the type of units we are interested in, affordable ones. And if you talk to them, maybe they're telling you, well, the situation you're putting them into is not very profitable for them. Yeah. What would you do to make them either break even or just get a little profit to buy into that, using these funds, especially the one we get from the city?
I don't know. We're working on our relationships with where we think the fruit will come, and that's with developers who are already committed to affordable housing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellen.
All right, thanks, Ellen.
Can you make your report available to us to look into?
Can you give
Yep, I can email that out to you tomorrow.
Thank you. Or any other time.
And almost all of it is on their website in
Not this.
quite a bit of it, yeah. Well, thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you.
Staff and commission updates. Staff.
I have just a few updates. So we are going to be getting back on track with the typical funding schedule. We'll have 2 opportunities opening in December. The application will open in December and it will be due in January. This will be non-legacy aid to agencies and CDBG competitive funding for FY27. So at our next December meeting, I'll have a tentative calendar for you for the funding schedule. We had hoped that maybe the federal budget situation would be a little more clear at this point. It is not. They passed a continuing resolution until January, so our plan is to proceed with our normal schedule, and in our applicant guide for CDBG, we'll just say that any awards could be subject to change. I think that's the best we can we can do at this point. Last year, for the same budget reasons, we deferred and we did a funding round in the summer instead, and it wasn't a good time for people to be applying for funding. You saw we only got one application, so we're gonna stick to our normal schedule and hope for the best, and hopefully there will be some more clarity soon. Non-legacy aid to agencies, that's local money, but just a reminder that this will be the last of the non-legacy round. So for new people, you'll do this one time, and then the system will kind of change a little bit, so bear with us on that. At our last meeting, you talked about having an interest in having our housing inspection staff come and visit with us. They weren't available for this meeting, but that's on the agenda for December. So we'll have Stan Loverman come in, and he can tell you a little bit about housing inspections and answer any questions that you might have. I also had lost on my list. I wanted to say thank you to Tom for all that work. That's going to bring in an estimated $14 million annually in Iowa City. 25% is earmarked for affordable housing, so that's $3.5 million a year of funds that don't have federal rules to it, which is like unheard of. So that's a really exciting opportunity to be able to do some great things in affordable housing. So
Has it been decided how that will be earmarked? Is that
No.
gonna just go into the Affordable Housing Fund?
no, none of that's been decided yet. It will be next July when it starts accruing. So I'm sure there will be many discussions between now and then on how that's distributed.
It won't necessarily be a one-time kind of decision. It's gonna be the annual budget is gonna be.
Right,
We've
right,
got this
yeah.
much money, how do we wanna spend it this year? So,
If
Well,
we,
unless the resolution's gets in place where it's just put into that fund and then
Yeah.
what's already ruling the fund gets to make those decisions moving forward. yeah,
right,
So,
right.
okay.
yeah, I can plan to keep you posted on what I hear and what opportunities there are for kind of public input on that. Very exciting. That's all from me.
Anybody else have any updates? Any
Well, I
input?
did see in the paper that the Housing Authority has, trying to implement a program to give landlords incentive. Well, I got there first, didn't I? You know, to provide landlords with some financial incentives to accept housing choice vouchers.
Yep, I'll
Which
share
I
that press
think if
release tomorrow
landlords
as well.
I think if landlords understood that they can use, you know, time-tested tenant selection procedures they get some really good tenants who stay for a long time. Because turnover for any landlord is expensive. So,
Yeah, they're offering $1,000 for leasing to an adult household or $2,000 for leasing to a household with children.
right.
It is a limited time pilot program, so, and it's only as long as they have funds. There is some, I talked to Rachel about it, and there are some hoops and
Well,
things
there
to
are,
jump
right.
through, as there always are. They originally had focused on 19 households, but she is trying to expand that outside of just the shelter house funnel to where those would be more accessible to their other ICHA, non-mainstream housing choice voucher people as well. So, but yeah, it was really cool.
It's cool.
It's a nice step towards what I know the Affordable Housing Committee, the one that had met a couple years ago, that was landlords and realtors. I mean, this is more in line with some of the recommendations they made than what did get put into place versus the recommendations. So yeah, it's exciting. So, anybody else? If not, I would love to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh, December 15th?
Yep, December 15th.
Okay.
The other thing I should mention is in January with the schedule, it falls on Martin Luther King Day, so we'll have to do the fourth Monday instead of the third Monday in January, but I'll make a calendar and formalize that.
Are you ready?
Just making sure it wasn't on my birthday. I heard a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? If so, just stay quiet.